Here's a guy who has a silly response to a video I made about him.
Guys, I got debunked again, this time by a Redditor.
I'm not a Redditor, and that's a screenshot of my Twitter account. Does this guy think that Twitter is the same as Reddit?
There's someone who probably owns one of these, and I know because I used to be an atheist.
I do own one of those, but mine fits me.
Until I realized that it's indoctrination, it's social control, and then I started using facts and logic to think for myself, which led me to the truth.
These are banger tweets of mine, by the way. And who is trying to control you using atheism? And what do you think they are trying to control you to do? And even if atheism were being used to control people, that wouldn't mean that it's false, would it? You can use the truth to control people. For example, insurance companies often produce media that warn people about things like fire hazards. This isn't something they do out of the kindness of their hearts. It's done to control you. Specifically, it's done to reduce the likelihood that you will do something that will result in filing an insurance claim and costing them money. But again, I don't know what atheists are trying to control you to do.
In this video, TMM is a debunker. He tried to debunk me, and it's perfect timing because a lot of people have been asking me to respond to his videos. He responded to my video where I say atheists need to stop saying this bad argument that religious people, you're an atheist just like me. Just go one God further. Well, first of all, religious people aren't atheists. This isn't an argument that deals with the true or falsity of any belief. It's just a rhetorical trick.
As I explained in the original video, I suspect this argument is intended to point out that most theists do not apply the same level of scrutiny to the God that they believe in as they do to the gods they don't believe in.
It is funny, and this meme is so powerful because the atheist empiricist will always say to you, I won't believe in anything unless there is peer-reviewed scientific evidence for it. Well, Mr. Atheist, there's no peer review on whether you should believe in yourself. There's no peer review on what is good, on what is bad, on what we ought to do, all these very important questions.
Well, this isn't really applicable to me. The reason why I believe that no God exists is because the notion of God is self-contradictory. I'm not convinced that there is no God because I looked at empirical evidence. I don't need to look at empirical evidence to be convinced of the non-existence of God any more than I need to look at empirical evidence to be convinced that no married bachelors exist.
If you look on the peer review, the majority of the peer review is false. So peer review does not give you knowledge, justified true belief. This is a problem with having science as your only epistemology.
Science is not my only epistemology. I know that God does not exist because logic is part of my epistemology.
Because science itself cannot justify the scientific method. How do you justify if logic is logical?
Well, logic by definition is logical. I think what he meant to say was, how does being logical justify a belief? Well, logic is a set of descriptions of what we seem to be able and not able to understand. I believe in the law of non-contradiction that says that something can't both exist and not exist at the same time and in the same respect, because when I try to comprehend such a thing, I consistently find that I cannot. I can't even understand what it would mean for the law of non-contradiction to not be true. So I believe it because I am unable to disbelieve it. I'm not saying that it is therefore true. I'm saying it's a belief I have no ability to dislodge whether it is true or not.
That inductive reasoning can be justified. The uniformity of nature. These things need to be assumed for the possibility of doing science.
No, they don't. We have occasionally used the scientific method to conclude that the universe is not uniform in all respects. For example, we know that the expansion of the universe is accelerating rather than proceeding at a consistent speed. How could science have discovered that if uniformity is a required presumption? How could science have discovered that the universe is changing in size at all if uniformity is a necessary prerequisite? Whether any aspect of the universe is uniform is something that we test for rather than something that science requires us to presuppose.
How do you know that the future will be like the past? It's just an assumption.
No, it's an inference. It's a testable inference. You can wait for the future to happen and then discern whether it was like the past. Science doesn't need to assume this at all. Scientists frequently hypothesize that the future will be like the past, but it's not necessary to science to assume this to be the case, because sometimes, in some respects, it turns out not to be the case, and science can discover that as well. Lots of deviations from regularity and uniformity have been discovered by science.
Based on custom, which is completely arbitrary on an empiricist worldview and can never be justified.
Insofar as we do navigate the world by inferring that the way things have consistently been will continue to be that way, as long as it continues to work, what's the problem? Maybe the sun won't rise tomorrow. If that happens, I'll revise my model of the solar system. For as long as the sun does rise every morning, I see no point in abandoning the inductive inferences that have so far served me well. We have achieved some pretty impressive things by proceeding in this fashion.
I mean, if you just read a basic epistemology textbook, you would start to learn these type of questions and realize that not everything is proven in the same way.
Whom are you addressing? Most of the atheists I know seem to be positivists rather than merely empiricists. Positivism combines empiricism with rationalism. Positivists seek knowledge through both empirical investigation and logical deduction. Ultimately, I would say I'm a pragmatist. I regard an idea as true insofar as it consistently seems to be useful for navigating experience. But I'm a positivist as well because positivism seems to serve that pragmatic end.
It isn't enough to say, show me the scientific peer-reviewed evidence, because there are certain transcendental categories that must be assumed for the possibility of even being justified in doing science.
I don't believe that any epistemology has any ultimate justification, nor do I think there needs to be one. As long as an idea consistently seems to predict my experiences, that's good enough for me. Maybe all of my experiences are illusory. I don't care. I just want it to seem like I'm effectively navigating my way around them. As long as things consistently seem that way, I don't care whether it's all an illusion. The reason I am not a theist is because theism does not seem to help me navigate my experiences.
In the first place, that can never be justified on an atheist, empiricist, purely materialistic worldview.
Nor can it be justified on a theist worldview. Even if there is a God, and even if that God is revealing truth to us, we are still fallible human beings who can mistake what that God is saying, or we can mistake false prophets and fake revelations for real ones. Even if there is a God who reveals truth to us, you can't be completely sure that your fallible human brain has correctly concluded that the God you worship is the one that exists and is giving us revelations.
And once you admit that, that knowledge becomes impossible. You can never have justified true belief on an atheistic worldview. Then you need to look to a worldview that can posit justification.
Why? And how does theism do that?
The reason I made my original video called Atheists Need to Stop Saying This, because I get hundreds of comments of atheists thinking this is an argument. I'm responding to them because most of the atheists think this is an actual argument.
Point out is the fact that theists often inconsistently apply their doxastic standards. They don't scrutinize the arguments for their preferred religion as rigorously as they scrutinize the arguments for religions they view less favorably.
Well, I don't do that. You're making a video about me.
More specifically, I was making a video about your interpretation of the one less God argument. When I said that the point of the argument was to point out that theists often fail to apply the same level of scrutiny to their own religion as they do to religions they reject, I wasn't saying that this argument applies to every single theist. I said that theists often apply inconsistent doxastic standards. I didn't say that they always do, or that you in particular do.
I used to be an atheist. All my friends and family were not religious. I only stopped being an atheist in college because I saw the limits of nihilism, of empiricism, of a strictly materialistic worldview. And I initially felt drawn to Christianity, but then I'm like, wait, am I in the right worldview? I could just be culturally biased. So I looked at the other religions of the Far East.
Did you really look at all the other religions? In your original video, you said you did. I doubt that to be the case because there are so many other religions that giving each and every one of them a fair hearing seems like it would take a lifetime. Even I don't say that I reject all religions. I'm not familiar with all religions. Maybe there's a religion out there that I would believe in. There have got to be some physicalist religions out there, right?
But their metaphysics are completely incoherent. They don't even really put a high value on truth, which is why they don't really try and convert anyone. They believe in reincarnation. It's really fundamentally pointless. And now Christianity in the Abrahamic phase, well, Islam comes significantly after Christianity, and it contradicts the prior revelation, which never happens before.
If the revelations of Christianity never contradicted any of the revelations of Judaism, why do Christians no longer have to eat kosher? Why do they no longer have to get circumcised? It seems to me like there was at least some revision going on there.
Lots of videos of saying why I'm not a Muslim. In Judaism, the current form we see today is rabbinical Judaism, and that is an innovation that comes after Christianity. Orthodox Christianity, as I would later find out, is the only continuity of the true Abrahamic faith.
Unless Orthodox Christianity rejects all of the innovations that Paul made to the religion, it is not a continuation of the original Abrahamic faith. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.